Hello. Welcome, everyone. Aron, you in the room with us?
I am.
Hi, friend.
Hello, Kyla. So good to see you.
You as well. How are you?
I am, Kyla, I am well. There's a lot going on in the world, and I am choosing joy and peace and greatness. Uh,
Hmm.
yeah, because I think it's a choice. And so that's how I'm doing. That's what I say every day. I'm choosing joy, peace, and greatness today.
Very fitting for our theme today as well.
Absolutely.
Well, welcome to everyone else who's joining us. Go ahead and say hello in the chat. Who's here? Where are you from? And I see several alumni already joining us. So go ahead and tell us what generation you are if you're an ICG alumni. As many of you know, this is an Ideal Coaching Global event. However, it's ran by us, the alumni, the students that have come through and been certified by this fantastic school. And really, what inspired me to create this is, pre-COVID, we used to actually get together in person for our trainings, and we got to interact and meet and talk. And when the training day ended, us students, we couldn't be stopped. We'd, meet up over dinner and we'd be just, debating what happened in the room that day and talking about distinctions and challenging each other's worldviews. And those moments were so rich for me. And when COVID happened and all of this, we kind of got away from that. Everything went online, for better, for worse, right? And what I really missed was these moments of being able to connect just student to student and discuss, talk shop, right? Which is what we're here to do today. And Aron and I were actually having a conversation a couple weeks ago. Aron is a leader of a transformational center that he'll talk a little bit more about, but he's giving our founder, Betty Spruill, an award. And it got us talking. And so of course, I invited him to be the first guest on this series. So Aron, welcome. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and why you're here?
Well, awesome. First of all, I just want to say thank you, Kyla, for choosing me to be your guest and to be your first guest. And Kyla was a little humble. Kyla was actually my coach during my journey at ICG, and I'm not sure that I would have gotten through it without her. She's just simply amazing. So when Kyla calls, you say yes. And so I'm excited to be here and grateful that you would have us. And hello to all of my fellow alumni. I'm excited to have this conversation. And what struck me when you said how in your journey how you were fellow students having conversations around the distinctions and coaching and what it means to be a coach and what it means to be an ontological coach. I'm grateful that I went to ICG because as I speak to other people about their coaching training, um, I don't judge it at all, but I know that I got an amazing education as a coach and being trained by Betty and really understanding what it means to have an ontological point of view, an ontological perspective in your coaching modality. And so I really enjoyed being a student at ICG. So hello, fellow alum. Glad to see you. Why am I here? Why am I here? I'm here because I believe in the beauty and the profession of coaching. I think that is coaches, certified coaches, trained coaches that are have the ability to support people to shift their lives in real measurable, tangible kinds of ways. And as you mentioned, I am one of the center leaders of the Global Kinship Center, and providing transformational training. And I use the distinctions of transformation in my coaching practice all of the time. And when you said, well, let's have a conversation about transformation and coaching, I said, hell yeah, I'm in. And so, yeah, and then to be supporting anything that, Ideal Coaching Global does, Miss Betty Spruill is just an amazing human walking the planet. And I am proud to say I'm a student of Miss Betty or Betty, and I've had the opportunity to also be coached by her for a period of time. And so that was amazing, to be coached by what some call the Oracle. So yeah, I'm here, I'm ready, and let's dig in.
Awesome. Thank you, Aaron. Yeah. I mean, you're already touching on some great stuff. And I know that we have people in the room that are not alumni. So for those of you, don't worry, you're welcome here too. All coaches, all levels. But you touched on ontological coaching, which is really part of the foundation of what we're going to talk about. Ontological, mindful, ecological coaching, which is a lot to say, big sentence, right? But we'll break that down as we go. And on ontology, we're really studying what does it mean to be in the world?
Mm,
And when I'm being in the world, it doesn't happen in isolation. And so me being in the world affects how I think, how I act, and what shows up for me. And one of the philosophers we study is Heidegger, Martin Heidegger. And Heidegger talks about interpretation a lot. In fact,
mm,
he says that it's interpretation all the way down. So, what does that mean? It means that we are constantly interpreting the world.
mm,
And as we interpret the world, we're actually only taking in a very tiny fraction of what we call reality. And the rest is we're blinded to, and we have to be blinded to because there's so much going on that would be really overwhelmed if we were able to take in all of the information presented to us at any
mm,
second. So we're always interpreting, and even these so-called facts we are interpreting through our worldview, and a worldview is made up of our childhood experiences, our cultural views, our if we grew up with religion, if we grew up with certain political views from our parents. All of this starts to form how we see the world and how we interpret the world. And this becomes really interesting when we bring up today's topic. Today's topic is the gift of being wrong.
mm.
And as human beings, how much do we love to be right, Aaron?
All the time, all the time. And I like to put a spin on that. And I think in the topic, it's not necessarily the gift of being wrong, but it's the gift of
Mm.
the willingness to be wrong, consciously living your life with a perspective that in any given time, I might be wrong about the way that I have it. Not that I am or not, but the willingness to explore that I might be wrong about the way that I have it. Because when I say that, I want to look at whether the gift of being wrong, it kind of takes away the invitation a little bit. But when
Mm.
we're talking about working with clients and looking at having them look at the possibility, the invitation that I might be wrong about the way that I have it. I might just be wrong about the way that I have it because it provides an opening for the client. If I ask them, well, could you be wrong about this? It could create a level of defensiveness and defending their position. But when I ask the question, are you willing to be wrong? Are you willing to look at this from another perspective? I don't even know, and I don't even have necessarily a perspective to offer, but just the willingness to say, could I be wrong about the way that I have it? Could something else be happening? Is there some interpreting that might be going on? In the training and transformational training, we would say that we are meaning making machines, that we're always making meaning out of something. And I assert that even it is unconscious. It is the way that our brains work, that we're taking in data and we are always interpreting. The question becomes, are we willing to say that I'm actually interpreting and that what I am seeing, experience, hearing, and what my listening is may not be a fact?
Mm. Mm. It's really powerful what you're saying, Aaron, because the invitation isn't just you're wrong, right?
Yeah.
To go around and be wrong, put your head down and realize that you're wrong, right? The invitation is actually something else. It's to see the world differently. And as long as we're right about how we have it, that's the trap. That's how we get stuck.
Yeah.
So, people on this call, take anything in your life right now that that's upsetting you or that isn't working for you. Maybe it's your boss, maybe it's your romantic relationship, and maybe it's the political affairs of the world, whatever it is. And the more you think you're right about it, that's the topic I want you to pick, right? And so when we take these ideas or these situations that we really want to be right about, and we ask ourselves the question, I love how you put that. It's about asking the question, what if I'm not seeing the whole picture? What if there's something different going on? That's where the magic really happens.
And how could I look at it from a new perspective? Something new, because when we looking at it from a different perspective, we're actually comparing it to what our already existing thinking is. Right. So when I want to look at something different, I want it to be more, I want it to be better. What actually is happening is I am in comparison to what it is that I'm already experiencing. But when I say, well, there's this situation that's happening in my life, and perhaps I can look at it and see its genesis from a new space, a blank canvas, something that I don't even know is possible. What could reveal itself to me in that process if I'm open to the question?
Mm.
So when we say, well, I want to look at it differently, we're actually putting in some of the things that we want to be right about already. But when we are truly having a willingness to be wrong about the way that we have it, it might invite us to create from a completely blank canvas.
Yeah, and I would even say that's the only way we can create. Because
Absolutely.
as long as we're right about how we have it, we can only try to change something. And that's when you say more, better, different, not to get too jargony for people, but what we mean by that is we can only take what it is, reality, as we say, and make it more, better, or different. We don't have enough money. We want more money. Our spouse is driving us nuts. We want them to be different, right? Um, so we're always going to be stuck in a particular holding pattern of possibility.
Exactly. Versus if I was using your spouse example, if I'm having tension or challenges in my marriage, asking myself the question, what is the marriage that I want to have, not what I want to fix about my marriage?
Mm.
What marriage do you want to create? What marriage do you want to have? What type of relationship would you like to exist in?
Mm-hmm.
Feel that, which
And
has
there's
nothing to do with the marriage that you have, possibly.
right. And there's the gift. There's the gift of being wrong.
That's exactly right.
Because you might never change your spouse, right? In fact, you probably won't,
Well,
right? But if if you're wrong about how you have them, if you're wrong about who they are, if you're wrong, then you don't need to change them,
right.
right?
And I like to say that I won't change anyone. I get to accept each person for where they are, who they are. But my being, if you're talking about an ontological conversation, that my being and who I'm being and what I want to generate in that relationship is can inspire and motivate a shift in that person's being.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't change them. They shift because they are influenced to shift who they are.
Yes. I just got a great question in the chat, and that is, could we ask questions in the chat? Hi, Roberto. Yes, absolutely. This is interactive. We want you guys involved in the conversation. So ask away. What is change versus impact? Aron.
Well, when I think of change versus impact, it's a great question, Roberto. Thank you for asking it first. Change to me is a relationship to what already exists. So it starts with something, and it is a relationship of something that exists, and it is a movement in something based on what exists. Versus impact is, and this is Aron speaking, impact is what it is that I generate from what it is that I want to create. But my desire is what it is that I want to see when I create it, that is the impact. And changes based on what already exists. And I'm shifting it. It seems like Roberto liked that.
Mm-hmm. Right.
How do I got the chat up. Okay.
So what I'm interpreting you say, Aron, is that change, it's working within the current system, whereas impact shifts the context and it gives rise to action that wasn't possible in the system that was before.
Exactly. And I think that I would say you go take it a little bit further, that it actually generates possibility.
It's generative,
It's generative.
whereas change is reactive.
Where change is reactive. That when you are changing something, you're only working in the sandbox of what it is that you have. But if I am going to generate and I'm going to look at creating impact, I'm in a generative space. And I almost don't even have to, I can recognize what's in my space, but I don't have to put my intention and my focus there. I had a great trainer, mentor, who told me that what you focus on expands. And when you are changing something, what you're focusing on is what isn't working. And that then can expand because my attention and my energy is on that versus generating and creating the impact that I want to have in what my relationship, my job, my company, my business.
Whew. We're only 20 minutes in, Aron. You're giving me all sorts of thoughts.
But I mean, it's a duality, it's a dual thing, because I love the construct that impact is generative. I love that. I mean, I would have said it generates possibility, but adding that extra adjective there even makes it more powerful.
So, are we talking about the process of transformation itself right now?
Well, I think that transformation is a tool that allows you to live in this, or provides you tools to allow you to live in the space of being in an ontological space. Because as I begin to understand and live some of those tools, for example, we talked about fact interpretation or change creation, the difference between change and create. When I am able to understand those tools of the generative space of impact versus change, which I think is a transformational concept, or is a transformational concept, when I can live those tools, I am accessing my being. They're invitations to step into my being and the beingness, which when I think of ontological, I think it's all about the being. Who do I get to be to create? Who do I get to be to allow myself to be willing to see something a different way? I get to be open. I get to be compassionate, maybe.
So the focus really becomes about me and who I'm being, rather than changing how the world looks at me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That I believe that is the invitation of ontology.
Right. It also reminds me, I study A Course in Miracles. I don't know if anyone else here is familiar, but there's something that the Course says, and that is projection makes perception. Often how we think about the world is that we're seeing the world happen, and then we're internalizing what's happening, and we're coming up with our opinions about what's happening. And what the Course says is actually the opposite, that whatever's happening inside of us, we actually project onto the world. So if, let's say, my spouse is being whatever they're being, right? I'm actually projecting that onto them. I'm projecting them being rude. I'm projecting them being selfish, because that's something that's in me, and that's I'm putting onto the world. Does that make sense?
Well, yeah, you're speaking of the concept. I mean, this is another transformation buzzwords, but speaking of source, right? That and source is the concept of the belief that whatever it is that is in my space, in my context, in my world, in my sphere, I am the generative power of it, and that if it is there, I have the generative power to shift it. Again, right back to being. That who I am being can shift. One, that it exists because I see it and it's in me. And then who I'm being, if I want it to shift, I have the power and the ability to shift it. I believe it's one of the personal places of individual empowerment. to believe that in any circumstance, I can shift. I'll give you an example of it. When we had the George Floyd incident in America, and the Derek Chauvin put his knee on George Floyd's neck, it was a very troubling time for me. It was as a Black man in America, it was a very troubling time, and it created a moment of, I would even say, depression for me. And I had to think about how I could shift it, what is my contribution to what it is that took place. And one of the things that I came to conclusion of is that I was going to have every white police officer that came into my space to know that I see them and value them, no matter what my experience was of being pulled over or whatever have you. And I now, whenever I see any police officer, say thank you for your service. I grew up in a military family, and we always said thank you for your service to vets. But I wanted particularly white police officers that have a different experience of an African-American male. And so every time I see a police officer, I look them in the eye and I say, thank you for your service. That every day I know that you get up out of your bed and put your life on the line. Thank you for your service. And for me, that was my way of generating a different story of officers who may not have another experience or have a conversation or a story about Black men. How could I shift in who I was being, the experience that white police officers had? And the way that I could be was to be compassionate and to have gratitude and showcase gratitude to every police officer. Thank you for your service. And shifting, maybe shifting their experience by who I was being.
Wow.
So I can't change the police force. And I can't change Derek Chauvin, but what I can shift is the experience that police officers have of Black men. That's my act of responsibility and who I'm being, to shift a situation that I thought I had no control over. But all of a sudden, I do.
I mean, it really takes this word responsibility to a whole different
Whole
level.
nother level.
In a situation where it would be so easy to call yourself a victim, and I think no one in the room would disagree, right?
Or feel powerless.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is essentially what a victim is when it comes down to it. You chose power and you chose to take responsibility, right? Accountability. This is one of the distinctions that I think is really important for our discussion today.
Yeah, when you think about, because I think that for those of us who have not done transformational work, we have a meaning of accountability and responsibility. Usually in general language, people see them as synonymous. In transformational work, we see them as distinct and different. Accountability is to take an accounting of what were the decisions and actions that I took, not a blame conversation, but what were the decisions and actions that I took. So for me, an accountability was that I didn't make it my business to have every police officer feel valued and respected and seen. Responsibility is to say, okay, now that I've done this accounting, I've looked at maybe what is my contribution, not blame, but what is my contribution to what I'm seeing that's happening in the world? Responsibility is saying, what do I want to sponsor going forward? What do I want to see? What do I want to create? What is the impact? What do I want to generate? What I want to generate is police officers to have a new experience of me as a Black man, and for them to know that I see them. And I do that. My responsible act is to say, thank you for your service. That this stranger who doesn't even know them has an act of seeing them. No matter what they do, how they do. Maybe they're great cops, maybe they're not. I don't know. But what I can do to every police officer, no matter what city I am, in an airport, if I see a police officer that I identify as a police officer, I look them in their eye and take a moment to say, thank you for your service.
Yeah, I love that. And I think it really speaks also into how nothing happens in isolation.
Absolutely.
We are
Absolutely. And that we are, I have to believe, even and particularly in the times that we're living in right now, regardless of your political persuasion, no opinion there for this conversation. But in the times that we are living in now, I believe the only way that I can have power in all of it is to look at what it is that I can contribute and who and what I get to be to shift I'm going to use the word sponsor, be responsible for what I want to see in the world, what I want to generate in the world. So in the earlier part of this conversation, you asked me how I was doing, and I said, I choose joy. I choose greatness. I choose peace. I choose peace. So that when I go to the other day, the guy brought my food in. I ordered Uber Eats and he brought my food in, and he had to have the last 4 digits of my phone number as my code. And I literally told him 4 times and he didn't get it. And so I'm, have somebody on hold and I'm waiting and I'm impatient. I just had to take a moment and say, you know what? I choose peace. And I just said it again slower, 6826. Because in that moment, I wanted to sponsor peace and be peace.
Yeah. And what's so incredible is that we're always at choice.
We're always at choice.
No
Always.
matter what's happening, we're at choice. Right? So here's a great question.
Yeah,
Speaking into that choice, right?
Yeah,
What would
great
your
question. I don't know how to pronounce your name. I think it's Chanice. Chanice. Forgive it if I've butchered your name. Chanice, it's not about them.
let's tell everyone what she said.
Oh,
So
thank you. So
so
Chanice
what
said, what would your reaction or feeling be if the police officer doesn't even acknowledge what you said to them? They just walk away. Yeah, my reaction would be peace and joy and greatness, because that's what I want to generate.
That's what you choose.
That's what I choose. And so my behavior, my action, who I want to be in the world has nothing to do with what that police officer did or says.
Right. And as long as what happens outside of us is able to choose peace for us, we'll never be at
I'll
peace.
never have peace. I never have peace.
We'll never have peace. It's up to me to choose peace. It's not up to what's happening outside of me. And this is where the real power comes in.
That's right. And in every domain of our lives. And as we begin to talk about being the coaching's corner and how do we, what is the, how do we use this in the coaching domain? The more that we can support and have our clients see their power in their situation, their choices in their situation, and the choices that they can make to shift and sponsor what it is that they want to generate in their lives. And who do they get to be to have it happen? I think this is great extrapolation for the coaching domain. And I love, Roberta, you're right, that so many people have responsibility as being bad and wrong. You need to be accountable. You need to be responsible. You just need to be clear on what you want to sponsor going forward in your life. What do you want to be clear about what you want to sponsor going forward in your relationship? What do you want to be clear about what you want to sponsor in your career, in the relationship with your boss? Being in a total place of empowerment all of the time, because I'm sponsoring it. And it doesn't matter what that police officer says or does.
Right. Someone asked, what does it mean that nothing happens in isolation? And I'll put it like this. What happened with George Floyd could easily be seen as something that happened outside of me. It happened over there, right? It happened in an isolated incident. What Aron chose to say is that I have some connection to that, and I have some say so in that. And I'm going to choose to generate a new story and a new experience, right? So even though it looks physically like Aron's completely separate, right, from the events that occurred that day, he's not. We're all co-generating together. And that's where his real power comes in from this story, is that now he's walking through the world not as I'm a victim and look what happens and it's always going to happen and there's nothing I can do about it. Aron's choosing to say, I'm going to generate a different conversation. Is that close, Aron?
Absolutely. I absolutely agree. And I think that, again, for me, this conversation and is about being clear about what it is that I want to have. What is the experience that I want to have? And to answer Roberto's question also is, can I be responsible and wrong at the same time? I think that this conversation, the word wrong or bad or good in a living and being conversation really is a blame game. And I'm not sure that's effective. Roberto, I like to have conversations about, is what I did, was it effective or not?
Yes.
Is what showed up effective in what it is that I want to see happen in my marriage? Is how I showed up, was it effective? I don't need to be bad and wrong. I just need to look at, was it effective in generating and creating what it is I want to see? Right? And when you remove wrong and bad from the equation, and again, particularly as we are working with our clients and having coach talk, right, coach shop, as we begin to talk about how we're supporting our clients, if we're having them look at the question, is their life effective? Is the situation that they're coaching in or about, is it effective? And do they want to generate something else? Because then you can just shift to what it is that you want to create. Because when we have a conversation about wrong and bad, what we have to do first is get through the beat up phase. We have to spend time and energy to get through the beat up phase, clean ourselves off, and then get to being effective. Versus just saying, okay, that was ineffective just because it didn't get me what I wanted. Not that it was bad and wrong, it just was ineffective because it didn't generate the result that I wanted to create. And now, what do I want to sponsor going forward? What is the result that I want to generate? What is the impact that I want to have? And if we can if we are supporting our clients to begin to have that conversation, the majority on the coaching session is now on what they want to generate. What's important to you? And what is it you want to get out of this conversation today? And at the end of this conversation, what do you want to have? All of that is generative. None of that is bad and wrong. It's all about forward movement. And then if we really want to throw a little bit of the icing or some whipped cream on this Sunday, as what is your commitment to it? Because we can want it, but not be committed to it. So what do I want to create? And then how committed are you to it? I ask clients all the time, how committed are you to this? And that opens up a whole nother conversation.
Right. Yeah.
Because are you willing to put in the work to have this thing that you want to sponsor going forward to actually happen? To generate it in real time in my life.
So juicy. Okay, so what I'm taking from this is that we are responsible for our interpretations. It's not that we're necessarily responsible for everything that happens in the world, but we are always responsible for how we interpret it.
Well, I like to use the word accountable, that I am always accountable for my interpretations and the impact that my interpretations have on any given life question. Because I am interpreting, and then I run with that interpretation, and that interpretation engages whatever it is, the life situation that I'm in. So I get clear on at least knowing, first of all, that I am interpreting. Because a lot of times we are interpreting and we don't even realize it. We actually see it as a fact. But really getting clear, I'm really interpreting. I'm really taking some information in. I'm processing it through my worldview. And I've made up a story about what it means. And then I begin to act on that. So first, to take an accounting of the fact that that process is even happening. And then the responsible part is to say, what do I want to sponsor going forward with this accounting that I've taken? You actually, in transformational conversation, this whole conversation of sponsoring what you want to do going forward or supporting people to see that can't happen without first taking an accounting. What are the actions, what are the choices that I have chosen that has contributed, co-authored this reality? Now, when I'm being responsible for my choices going forward is, okay, now what do I want to, who do I want to be? How about that? Not what I want to do, but who do I want to be to generate going forward, which is sponsor going forward, being responsible.
Really powerful. Anyone else want to chime in on this conversation in the chat? We're getting close to the end here. Not quite, though. And I want to bring this back to coaching, practicalities, right? Because this series is all about building worlds at work.
Mm.
That's what we're doing as coaches. We're co-creating, we're co-building worlds that work for our clients, right? Without that, we don't have a job. So building worlds that work. How can we take this conversation, Aron, and use it with our clients?
Mm. Well, I think that we've already begun the conversation. For me, is this question around effective and ineffective. Having clients begin to explore that there is no wrong or right on either side of the dilemma that's being coached in. That the person that's I do a lot of executive coaching, and executives will come to the conversation with a judgment of how their subordinates are showing up, right? And I invite the executive to explore two things. One, what do you think is ineffective about how your subordinate is showing up? And what is it that's ineffective about the coaching and supervision that they're getting that has them show up? Not a conversation of what you're doing wrong as the executive, but look at what is it that what you're doing and who you're being with them that's not generating the result that you want to see in that employee. So how do you begin to support our clients or ask the questions that generates exploration into a effectiveness conversation? Because when you are having an effectiveness conversation in your life, it opens up these other things that we've been talking about: accountability, responsibility, create, shifting, impact. When we're able to see, is it effective? Is it working? What do we want to shift to? And
Yeah,
being questions that will help clients explore that.
it really takes the emotion out of it, right?
Absolutely.
Was it effective or not? And from there, it's much more a neutral place to stand. Uh,
Absolutely.
because we
And it's less charged. It's not charged.
right.
Because when you have a conversation about what's wrong, you're actually generating a charge. Because it could be right and just not it could be right and ineffective. But sometimes we need to make something wrong in order to deal with it or to address it.
Hmm. Yeah, I feel like as coaches, one of the main outcomes we want to create is that our clients begin to become an observer of their own thoughts, of their own ways of being, uh, and and so as we begin to observe who we're being in the world and if we're effective or ineffective at what we want to create, this question of commitment came up earlier. And I think I want to end there. So when we see we're not effective, right? And we keep not being effective, and we come at a problem all kinds of different ways, and we keep getting the same results. Um, how does commitment play into this, Aron?
Well, that's a great question, Kyla. I'll answer it from a practical coaching perspective of what I do in my practice. In most of my sessions, I will ask the client towards the end, well, what are you committed to having happen? And then I ask them, why is that next step important to you? Right? It really challenges the client to get clear on their commitment, And sometimes, they'll say, well, I'm really just committed to being with it. And that's great. And what does being with it look like for you? Right? So the conversation of how you are, or not how, but what is your commitment, and really having them see the level of their commitment to the level of the importance it is for them. And what will they miss in their life if it that they're committed to doesn't happen? What are the prices that they will pay if that commitment doesn't happen for them? And I don't have a dog in the fight whether they do it or not, right? And none whatsoever. But it's important for them to know, well, this is what I want. This is why I want it. And here is the prices that I'll pay if I don't generate it and create it.
And, to bring up the example used earlier with the police officer, right? We'll know if you were committed or not to peace if you have peace, no
Exactly.
matter how that officer reacts to you, right? If they're a total jerk and you lose your peace, you know that you lost your commitment. Is that what I'm hearing?
Exactly. And even in that experience of them being a total jerk is an interpretation that I'm having in that moment, because they could have, had their mother could have just died. There's this great story that Stephen Covey writes in his book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, where he says he's on the brief version of it. He's on the train. These 2 kids are acting out, and they're jumping all over the place, and they're climbing on top of the seats, and they're just, running amok on the subway. And the woman looks at him and says, will you control your children? You're just letting them do whatever they want to do. And he looks at them and says, we just buried their mother today, and I don't even know what to do. So my interpretation is also connected. My interpreting is also connected to my peace.
Yes.
Because I choose the interpretation that he's being a jerk. I could also choose that he just is having a horrible day and he just couldn't be present in that moment.
So powerful.
That gives, and I'm at choice of my interpretation of his response to my act of kindness. I'm a choice.
Back to choice.
Back to choice. All day, every day. Only always.
I love that. Well, we're going to start to wrap up. If you choose to continue this conversation, we're here every other Tuesday with a different alumni, different worldview in the space, exploring distinctions, tools, practices that will help you with your clients build worlds that work. And if you're not yet a coach and you want to join us, we are starting another certification program this February. You can go ahead and schedule a discovery call. My lovely colleague, Mitch, just put that in the chat for you. So yeah, join us in one way or another. Come to another coaching shop conversation. Come get certified as a coach. Whatever you choose. I hope you choose
I'd
to
like
do
to add to
it.
that, Kyla, for a moment, that I, even if you don't want to be a coach, there is a opportunity in expanding the impact of your worldview in your life, in your relationship, that studying ontology really and truly offers. That the moment I walked out of my generation, how I saw the world completely shifted, and how I engaged in relationships completely shifted, and who I was being in the world shifted, because I learned the study under Miss Betty and the work, which is why when you called and said, will you do this? I was like, of course. So I invite those who are maybe not even exploring a discipline in coaching or a career in coaching to consider and have a discovery call with Kyla and learn about what is the benefits of studying ontology could be in generating what you want to create in your life, what you want to sponsor going forward, and what you want to generate and the impact that you want to have. It's a free call, so why not have it? So thank you for having me, Kyla. It was a pleasure. Thank you to all the grads. It is a pleasure for me to be a part of this amazing community, a part of this team. I am proud to call myself an ICG graduate, and I wear it on my as a badge of honor to be a part of this community.
Yeah,
Amazing day all.
it's so true, Aaron. The same. I see everyone talking in the chat. So great to have you in my space again. Maybe I did this selfishly just to be able to be in community with all of you. But I really enjoyed this conversation, Aaron, and I'll see everyone in 2 weeks, October 21st, for our next coaching shop conversation.
And by the way, just Miss Betty is receiving the Lifetime Transformational of Leadership Lifetime Award. And please, if you would like to send her a note, reach out to me. I don't know how to do that. Maybe you'll send out. I'll just put my email address in here.
Yeah, give everyone your email. This is a really big deal for Betty. She, has been contributing to the transformational space for over 30 years, Aaron.
Yes. And we are honoring her. She's coming to Florida to be with us to receive the award. There are many ways that you can support her, support this event. I'll also put our website in here that you can see that. And it's amazing. Xavier, so good to see you. Center.org. I think that's right. All right. Amazing. So please check us out. Let us know. And thank you again, Kyla. And I get to hop.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a great night.